The main point I want to get over is that your mind is crafted by the society to serve it for its advantage. But your heart is divine. It's divinely created. And it only responds to pressure put on it. And that pressure has to be unfiltered from the universe itself, which means you got to act on your heart telling you what to do. And since we get all of this schooling, it becomes very difficult to discern between the programming of the mind and the commands of the heart until you put yourself in such a situation that it stretches your mind into silence, and then you flow in on your heart. Because no matter how much stress your heart hits, it's going to grow itself to harmonize with that energy. And as your heart starts to grow in its own vortex, because the mind doesn't have a vortex, your mind is static. Nature designed you so that your heart would command what it needed in time and space in real time, like water. That's why the ancestors cultivated themselves with a lot of silence, so that they didn't get a lot of weight put on their heart. See, right now your heart is buried under a lot of bullshit called your mind. And you know what you got to do to get out of that, don't you? So when you just start flowing on your heart, talking on it, walking on it, driving on it, thinking on it, moving on it, crying on it, laughing on it, when everything starts to flow from now, you're going to start to witness yourself in so many different energies. That's when you get that self-knowing. And when you have that, nothing takes effort for you. Nothing. Most people, especially in this society, are trapped in their heads. And the heart is the only way to get strong enough to break out. Because it literally is a prison. And it's furnished by the society. So, and I'm talking to somebody who was there for a lot of years. This person you hear and see now, very recent. Very recent. Most of my life, stuck in the prison of my mind, trying to get out. But at least I was trying to get out. I knew I was there, but I was trying to get out. The powerful thing about the heart is that once you acknowledge your condition, it will start to show you avenues to explore. And that's where courage comes in, because if you don't act, you ignore it. You can only fear that what you're ignoring. And whatever you acknowledge, you're going to be shown how to deal with it. So you got to start moving on what your acknowledgments show you to do, which is different for everybody. That's why I don't talk about individual actions I've done, because the equation for me is different from the equation from anybody around me. I'm just telling you how to get the equation, which is you got to acknowledge things, everything. You have to acknowledge everything about everything. Everything about everything that led to everything that was about everything. And keep moving. Because acknowledgement is the vortex. You know, most people start acknowledging stuff like I tell them to, and their heart starts to show things to them, and they go, and once they get to that point where the action is greater than what their mind said it can do, they start saying things like, I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. Listen to what you're saying. I don't know about all of that. Well, what's the remedy to not knowing about all of that? Exactly. And that's why it takes courage to be truthful. I guess that's why they gave me my props, because I never let myself stand on fear alone. Like, if I can make the calculation, even if what I'm doing was going to take my life, if I made the calculation that is part of my development, I had to go, even if it was my last step. But it wasn't. It never was. I acknowledged that I was in the doctor's office. All my limbs on fire, my sinuses clogged up. You know, mucus, dry as plastic coming out of my nose, literally. Couldn't barely breathe for over a month. I acknowledged that the root of all of that was my diet. I acknowledged that I knew certain things, but I didn't know enough. And I knew that the medical route was going to be the final route because they were going to take organs out. They would take my ability to transform away. But the ancestors, due to all of my acknowledgement, put Dr. Africa's book in my hand. At the time, I was going to consult a surgeon, and I weighed my courage against my cowardice, and told the doctors to go fly a fucking kite, and the rest is history. Most people ain't got that kind of heart, but I do. Back then, I had given up religion already, and I was just coming into African spirituality because I was listening to Bobby Hemmett for a while. I didn't even know what it was. After a while, I started to acknowledge the presence of my ancestors, and just by me acknowledging their presence and acknowledging when they showed me the next step, they became more active in my life. Acknowledgement is the antithesis of ignoring, and believing is full-blown ignoring. Belief is what people do to numb themselves down, and I ain't got no time for that. I want to see everything on that road as I'm driving. You know, so that's me. So as I acknowledge what I don't know, the ancestors show me how the next step connects to what I already do know. And when I go take that step, I'm exposed to things that I didn't even know existed. But now I know those things. And so the ancestors have more avenues to help me expand what I know with what I don't. And that process creates a whirlpool that I don't have to ask my questions verbally no more. I don't have to ponder in my head at all. In fact, my head started to empty because the flow of the vortex was so powerful. I could just throw everything I had into the vortex and the answer would be shown to me immediately. And that process is ongoing till the day I die. All because I acknowledge everything and ignore absolutely nothing. So the sun ain't flying through because it's projecting itself anywhere. The sun is flying through because it's attracted to the next star system, you know. And the planets are attracted to the sun because the sun is supplying the wisdom that the sun is gaining from its travels with those planets as they travel. And the planets as they travel are sharing their experience that they're gaining with the life that's on those planets. So it's all in love. We fly high not because we got to go somewhere. We fly high because we got somewhere to go. And that's what this system can never teach you. So when I'm sharing my shine because I can't contain it in my vessel. I got to let that shit out. But the universe is so awesome that the universe is full of celestial bodies that can receive my full message. You see, they're gonna say, okay, this is all I can eat today, but I'm a chew on that. And when they chew on what the sun give them, they create plasma. And then life forms on the planet do something with that plasma, and then the life forms that depend on the plants can do something with the plants, so everybody's sharing. It's all in love. But this system teaches you an unnatural concept. And once you decide to activate your heart, activate your soul, and become the sun, you can tell when the academic motherfucker lying on you. You know? Or you're going to believe what they tell you about you so you can make you some money. Because that's really the choice they give you. Are you going to be who you are and know when the motherfucker lying on you? Or are you going to eat the lies that motherfuckers say about you, numb yourself down to his level, and take his money and hope everything goes okay? Those are really your only two choices. Become a god or stay a troglodyte. And so I've cultivated myself to the point where every single word I say today is a form of sharing. And just as every single particle the sun casts off is a form of sharing, I know that whoever eats what I serve them is gonna have a life-altering effect on them, and they're gonna have something to share back with me. They're gonna be able to feed me back. So if I put trash out here, I'm gonna get trash back. But if everything I do is a form of sharing, then everything I get back will be a form of sharing, because that's how the universe works reciprocity. You get what you give. And so I create abundance within myself, I give that abundance, and I get it back every time. And since most people are flowing from their minds on the static information they fill their heads with, they're moving on that, well, when they put that out into the universe, they get that same brick thrown back at them at a higher velocity than it left them. You see, when you don't cultivate self, you have nothing reflective to share. And if you're putting things out that you don't want to come back to yourself, well, you're going to get pelted with things that come back to you that you didn't want to come back to yourself, but you put them out. But if you're self-reflective, every single thing you put out, you're going to want to come back. Everything I share, I want it to come back, and it always does in higher magnitudes than it left me. And since most people are flowing from their minds on the static information they fill their heads with, they're moving on that, well, when they put that out into the universe, they get that same brick thrown back at them at a higher velocity than it left them. You see, when you don't cultivate self, you have nothing reflective to share. And if you're putting things out that you don't want to come back to yourself, well, you're going to get pelted with things that come back to you that you didn't want to come back to yourself, but you put them out. But if you're self-reflective, every single thing you put out, you're going to want to come back. Everything I share, I want it to come back, and it always does in higher magnitudes than it left me. So if you're putting self-reflective water drops out there, because self-reflection is the only way to put water out, because water is self-reflective. So you put self-reflective water out there, you're going to get rains, you're going to get rivers, lakes and streams back. Now if you put rocks and sand out there, dry-ass pieces of information you got from someone other than yourself, no self-reflection at all, you're not going to recognize nothing that comes back to you because it didn't come from you in the first place. No. I want everything that comes back to me to be something I recognize. So everything I say and do is personal, intimately personal to me, because I want it all back. And so I don't get fragments I don't recognize. Fragments I don't recognize are repelled if they don't reflect me. Most people moving to a society taught them they don't have the humility to remain silent and receive. And they don't have the character, the heart, the love for whoever hears them to be mindful of everything that comes out of their mouth. See, when it has no self-reflection, it cannot have truth in it. So every word with no self-reflection in it is a fragment, a destructive, dry fragment. It can only have life if it's coming from your own life force, experience. So if you don't have love for yourself, you can't love anyone else. And if you don't love anyone else, you can't put love out here in this atmosphere. I know people going to do well on the shit I say. I know that. I know my words are nutritive to all who hear them because I only speak to the lessons I learned from doing what I do. I don't speak too much on what I do. I speak on what I have learned by pushing into what I needed to push into and what I got from doing what I did. And when people eat off of that, they too will be able to go and navigate their road and share with everybody on their path too. Create these small little vortexes that one day we're going to come into a harmonious, or we're going to become that one whirlpool. Because whirlpools don't fight each other. They join each other because they are the same. They just have their own path. Even now, I'm speaking a very high vibrational, specific language. And only those who recognize my language will know that they will be the only ones who know that I'm talking to them. And guess what? The only way they can know that I'm talking to them is because they have to recognize themselves in me. Meaning that my self-reflection is reflective of their reflection of themselves. And just like water drops coming together to form a larger body of water, we recognize each other because I don't compromise my language. My language has to remain true to that which I'm speaking to. And those who I'm speaking to will recognize themselves in what I say. Because those who exercise truthfulness, those who exercise soulfulness, those who exercise magnetism, we don't have friends. We only have lovers. And the first love is zero, which is self, and that self expands into all others who love love. So love is self-reflective, and love repels hate. Hate repels love. I mean, hate repels those that would block love. So hate is divine. Hate protects love. Because without love, there's self-destruction. You can't invite haters in to the circle of love. The hater will cause self-destruction. You see, the self-reflective, everything that leaves them, they want to come back to them. Everything. But the parasite is self-projective. The parasite launches. The parasite throws himself into. The parasite marches with no purpose. But the self-reflective knows what he's going to do before he acts on it. The parasite does not know what he's going to say before he says it. The truthful has something to say, has something to share, and will make sure that it's done with precision. The parasite knows not precision. And there's only two sides to this. There's no in between. So my language is so self-reflective that the sound of my voice alone attracts the lovers and repels the parasites, both of which I am joyful. For both of which I'm joyful. Because when you start entertaining the parasite and the lovers, your lovers will leave you and the parasites will accumulate. And confusion will start to circulate into your vortex. And slowly you will numb yourself down. Because this universe is not going to be rendered numb because you have decided to disconnect from righteousness. You got to always know that. Truth don't go nowhere. So what's the benefit of you leaving truth? So people who love themselves, people who are reflecting themselves, people who are speaking to me because they genuinely want to share life-enhancing sounds, and they want to sing their song of love for themselves to me. Well, I love to listen to that. But I know that when someone is projecting hatred to me, they must have first run that through themselves before it can come to me. You see, the only way a parasite could hate someone who loves self is if that person is a parasite. Parasites need to eat love because they can't generate it within themselves. And since this is a universe that demands reciprocity, they often have to steal it. The most successful parasites bargain with what they got from someone else. But you can tell a parasite from a self-lover because a self-lover's sharing is alive in real time. However, the parasite is always a beat off, always a little late, and is always asking you to agree to contract your demand for magnetic resonance and embrace noise. But that's at best a suggestion. But because when you're singing live, living, truthful music, soulful music, people's hearts resonate with it against their will even. Nobody rejects self-love. Nobody rejects it. It's just that it's so uncommon these days. You know, when you go out, people are not really sharing. They're just throwing nonsense in the air. I'm so intentional with my words that I don't enter into contracts. You know, I share. And if you want to handcuff my sharing, I just won't share with you. You know, so I share with some people, and I'm dead silent to others. And then, you know, because it's all energy. See, the heart chakra, the heart is all about feel. I don't filter nothing my heart say to do. My heart say to say this, I say it. My heart say to do this, I do it. My heart say don't do that, I don't. So, got a lot of trash in our minds, man. But the heart is divine. The heart is the only thing that's never wrong, because it's a piece of the universe itself. And you're here to cultivate that, even if you didn't know that before I told you. The parasite acts to be seen, talks to be heard, and always tries to put an escape route into everything they say and do. The truthful, self-reflective person stands sure. Anything that a self-reflective person says, you can rest assured that he will welcome you if you decide to ride it back to its source. A cowardly parasite won't be there. They launch, they throw, they probe, but they don't share. And this is a universe that demands sharing only. Everything else is parasitical, and you're not causing my self-destruction. If the planet were as trivial about truthfulness as this society is, there would be no life on this planet. And if your own body was as trivial about truthfulness as we may tend to be, we would be dead right now. But when we harmonize with that truthfulness, well, I'm getting my lessons from that. I want you to get yours too, so that you can share. So, talk to me about me anytime, because I know the parasites won't do it, because they would have to be willing to self-reflect into me as well. Parasites have nothing to reflect, so they run and stay weak. So I'm so in harmony with myself that nothing outside of me can hurt my feelings. You know, sometimes I may get animated and yell at some people, some self-destructive parasites. They're like, well, Dex, why you yelling? Why are you yelling? I'm like, well, you may be numb to the fact that you're touching a hot stove, So with me, I'm hypersensitive to the heat of the hot stove. So while you don't feel that your hand is on that stove, in another 5 minutes, I will still have a hand, and you won't. You see, the parasite's numbness is not my handicap. It's his. And parasites like to commiserate on their own self-destruction. The self-reflective person is always grateful when someone outside of him loves him enough to say, you know what, you're engaging in self-destructive behavior right now. You might want to address that from here. I recognized that behavior when I was participating in it myself. I love myself enough to quit, and I love you enough to share with you how I was able to break the cycle of that self-destruction. A parasite won't do that for you. A parasite will celebrate you destroying yourself because it will make them feel as if they have company. The parasite hates himself but loves to hate himself, which means that destruction is all the parasite knows. In this universe, you're either lover or parasite. I was never real fond of friendship. As soon as the relationship turned parasitical, I let the parasite repel himself every time. So they're like, well, Dex, why don't you want a lot of friends? Well, friends requires that I compromise truthfulness. Friendships are based on compromise. This society tell you that. They define it as such. But the sun don't compromise its rays. Water doesn't compromise its flow. Your body doesn't compromise its life force for anything. Anything that creates an abundance doesn't compromise its ability to do so. So I will not compromise truthfulness for someone else's self-destruction. I will let you repel yourself because I need to attract more lovers and you clogging up space. So be mindful of channels that make self-hate cool. Watching TV, listen to the commercial radio, going to the average school, they make self-hate feel good. They make self-hate look good. But it ain't good. You become numb to the result. And when you're numb to the result, you're going to self-destruct. It's better to come to know yourself rather than attempt to numb yourself to death with a belief. All beliefs are false. All actions are true. Correct your language to what you experience, and you'll always be all right. I always know a parasite because they have no self-development to grow from the water I'm sharing with them. So sometimes I'll be sharing a lesson or 2 or 3 or 10 from what I'm experiencing, and they'll say something along the lines of, I've heard it all before, I don't want to, why you always talking about all that? Why don't you slow down? Why don't you explain more? I don't quite understand you. Why are you projecting your ignorance into me as if it's on me to solve? You see? People should know themselves enough to know what they recognize and what they don't. And they should have the courage to know what they need to go experience in order to come back to what I'm sharing with them. Those reflecting self-love, they love to see other people shine. But parasites hate shine, because shine will rip a parasite inside out. When a parasite sees light, they feel the emptiness that no cultivation of self has gotten them. Even if they're full of someone else's growth that they've stolen, it's static and dead, because as soon as you rip something living from its source, it dies. So they can steal as much as they want. They can pose as much as they want. But when it's time to see it dance, and that rhythm isn't there, let the parasite repel themselves. This society will say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But if I'm witnessing self-destruction, and I can put an end to it by speaking the truth, I'm going to speak that truth, and I don't give two fucks about how nice it sounds. In fact, the less nice it sounds, the more potent its impact will be. You know, so fuck being nice, because being nice is being untruthful. See, magnetism don't play no games. You know, as soon as you're unrighteous, everything on that channel disconnects from you. But I love the download of information I'm getting from this frequency, and I'm going to stay there forever. And I have to just keep telling people about it. And more people are going to come online to it. You see, my thinking is reflected by what I see and experience in real time with my actions. And my language is reflecting my thinking, which is reflecting my experience with my actions. The problems I've solved, the problems I've encountered, the lessons I've learned from them. That's my language. And when I speak that into the atmosphere, it comes back to me just as precise, but often more abundantly than it left me. The less noise I project, the less noise I get back. The more music I reflect, the more music I get back in all kinds of ways. Am I willing to pollute the stream of love I receive from the universe every day just so someone can call me a nice person? Hell to the fuck no. You know. Alright, Dex, you're an asshole. I'll be that. You're a jerk. I'll be that. You're so mean. I'll be that. You're so rude. I will be that. But there's one thing you can never call me in a truthful way, and that is untruthful. That is dishonest. You can't call me that. No, I will never be that. I will be everything else, but I won't be that.